We're very, very pleased and privileged to have a special guest with us this afternoon, a local man who indeed has great sympathy and understanding for the history of Bessborough. I speak, of course, of Taoiseach Micheál Martin. Send the tall one there.
Sorry?
Send the taller one there.
The taller one. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed, PJ. And could I say at the outset, Lord Mayor of Cork, Deputy Seamus McGrath, Councillor Terry Shannon, Councillor Mayor Rose Desmond, and there's Peter here as well, and all Senator Laura, where's Laura? Laura Harman as well, and all public representatives. Could I say at the outset to thank Carmel for the invitation to be here this afternoon at this commemoration event at Bessborough Mother and Baby Home, where fundamentally we remember the women, mothers and children who were born and who were in Bessborough at various times from 1922 over the decades that followed. We in particular thank Tom Walsh and all involved in Carmel and the group that PJ has mentioned for this ceremony and for this opportunity to remember, to keep alive the memories, but also to do justice for all who came through here, because all here today have been impacted in one way or another. And I'm particularly pleased to meet Una Deneen again, and to pay tribute to you, Una, and to say it's wonderful to see you hale and hearty amongst us, and Joe also. The state acknowledges and I took the opportunity some years ago on behalf of government and the state to apologise for the profound generational wrong that was visited upon Irish mothers and their children who ended up in a mother and baby home across the country or in county homes, and then for the stigma and shame which they were subjected to, and for many it still remains a burden to this very day. The state simply failed. And there have been many advocates who did enormous work to advocate for all involved and to try and first of all get the truth and seek information. And I know today three such unsung heroes who are no longer with us are being remembered, in particular Mary Steed, Ursula Shannon and John Furlong. I knew Ursula very well. As I know Terry, we grew up together for many, many decades. Ursula was extraordinarily tenacious in the pursuit of information and in pursuit of the truth. And in particular, the Birth Information and Tracing Act perhaps owes a lot to many advocates, but also I think to Ursula's own experiences, and particularly to issues that had been raised when previous attempts at legislation failed or weren't adequate enough or weren't sufficient enough. And very often constitutional impediments were cited as reasons why the legislation couldn't do what ultimately the Birth Information and Tracing Act has facilitated. And the former Attorney General Paul Gallagher was particularly effective in identifying the way through to overcome any potential constitutional issues around that Birth Information and Tracing Act. But Ursula had taken me through her own personal life journey and the extraordinary obfuscation and delay that she faced in her life to get the truth about her birth parents. But she got there in the end through tenacity, advocacy, and just plain stubbornness as well in terms of her demeanour and character. And we remember Ursula in particular, and Terry, who's with us. We think of her all of the time, and particularly for the wonderful legacy that she lived. I didn't know Mary as well, but equally a fearless and powerful advocate on behalf of all, and particularly the children here who we still have enormous issues with in terms of identifying where the babies and children were buried. I knew John Furlong well also, extraordinary individual, and John and his family gave great support to women in Bessborough down through the years. He lived locally here, as you know, and he was very adjacent to the Bessborough, but he went to extraordinary lengths to help women from here and to enable them to begin a new journey in life, and he was an extraordinary individual from that perspective. The action plan that followed the apology and so forth, about 7 key points, 6 of those, and there will be varying degrees of, people still would not be happy with perhaps the entire degree to which all of them have been fulfilled, but quite a significant amount of progress has been made, particularly in terms of the legislation identified. I think about 6,500 have engaged with that legislation in terms of tracing now and knowledge and so forth, but also in terms of memorialisation. And the National Research and Memorial Centre now has got planning permission. It's a National Research Centre and Remembrance Centre, which I was involved in with myself and continue to be now, as Taoiseach and Martin Fraser has been heading that up and driving that, and that will remain a very important initiative. But also then that we would facilitate local remembrance, local memorialisation, and that we would fund local events as well, and that you would have connection between the National Centre and local areas as well, which I think would be the optimal way to remember and to give resources to enable that to happen. I know a working group was established by the Minister for Housing, Local Government and Heritage to prepare guidelines for local authorities, particularly in terms of burial sites or areas where burial sites could have happened in their development plan processes. I know City Council has done that in terms of its city development plan, but there is still unfinished work here, and there's still very significant issues in terms of the existing planning commissions and the land not being in state possession. And I'll certainly work with the local authorities and with all involved to see how we can best deal with that. I'm not going to make any simple promises today or declarations. These things have to be navigated, and these issues have to be engaged with in terms of all the people involved. But I do think I will work with the local authority in respect of the issue here in Bessborough, and in terms of the land here, and in terms of how this situation can be unravelled and dealt with. Because I know the Commission of Inquiry did do cartography and did do significant work on the site here. They are of the view that the children were likely to have been buried in this site, but the exact location hasn't been identified, and there is significant work to be done. And I think that is clearly unfinished work for this specific site in particular. And I will work with all concerned to see how best we can advance that. Nothing can undo the wrong that has been done, but comfort can be brought to those of you today and who remember your brothers, your sisters, family members, that if facility and opportunity and space must always be created and provided to enable us to remember and to atone. And I thank you very much indeed for the honour of being invited here today to be with you at this occasion of remembrance and commemoration. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Thank you very much.